We're back with a bonus conversation you'll only see here on CBS News New York. So continuing our conversation about the protests that are going on, I wonder what you think about the mayor's policy now, which seems to be as soon as the tents go up, you should take them down. That this colleges, he's advising colleges not to let the tents go up. How do you feel about that?
I think this mayor is hell-bent on any kind of policy that can repress students from sharing their political opinions. And what concerns me is we've seen universities like Wesleyan, like Brown, which have engaged with their student protests and come to a very different peaceful resolution. But what the mayor is doing is encouraging Columbia's decision-making that brings armed police officers onto campus. And that creates a sense of terror that didn't exist when it was just tents going up on the green. I
guess the question then becomes the demand that the colleges divest from Israel. Is that a realistic demand? And can the colleges really do that?
I think they absolutely can, and we're seeing a number of institutions across the country start to consider that. Some have actually taken the step to saying they will stop taking money from a number of weapons manufacturers, for example, like Boeing. And this is also built on activism that students have done for decades. We've seen same kind of organizing against apartheid in South Africa. You know, in 1968 at Columbia's campus, there was this kind of organizing against the Vietnam War.
So the state budget actually appropriates about $500,000, $500,000, so that the state can reassess its Holocaust education. I wonder whether you think that's a good idea for the state to be spending money on, or and what do you hope that it will accomplish?
I absolutely think it's a good idea for the state to be spending more and more money towards educating New Yorkers about the horrors of the Holocaust, because for far too many Americans, the further we get away from that horrific event, the less that we know about it and understand just how tragic it was.
So do you think it's made Jews more sensitive and non-Jews less sensitive to what's going on now? Because a lot of times in the Jewish community, the hate speech that they hear makes them remember the atrocities of the Holocaust.
I think that we have to ensure that every single student understands it, because what is concerning to me is that when you lose that knowledge, then you lose the understanding of what a people have suffered and how that suffering actually occurred.
So I want to ask you a series of true or false questions. True or false, you founded a cricket club?
True.
You did? Tell me about it.
So I went to high school in the Bronx at Bronx Science, and I co-founded our first cricket team, and we took part in the PSAL's inaugural cricket season.
So true or false, you always wanted to make a movie?
You know, I've wanted to make, so I guess true. I guess ish, in that I wanted to make films, I wanted to work in films, but I've also had many other passions.
So true or false? You were Mr. Cardamom.
True. That is absolutely true. I was once Mr. Cardamom, and there are rumors that maybe I will return at some point.
And you did a song.
I did a song. I made a rap song, shot it in Jackson Heights. I had an incredible actress named Mother Joffrey play my grandmother, where she slapped me multiple times. And
I watched it.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it was great. Okay. It was really fun.
Thank you.
But I think it's important for people to understand that there's another side to you.
Yes.
So you were born in Uganda. You moved to New York when you were 7. Can you remember what it was like, or anything about your childhood that stands out now today, you know, before you came to the United States?
You know, I was, as you said, born and raised in Kampala, Uganda, in East Africa. When I was 5, we moved to Cape Town, South Africa, and then when I was 7, we came here. The things that I remember, first of all, is not fully understanding what winter was until I really experienced
it. And then you came here.
New York City, yeah. And then one thing that was surprising to me is I'd grown up my life speaking English, because both of those countries had a history of English instruction in schools, and I came here, and the thing I would hear time and again was that I spoke really good English, and I didn't know how to respond to that.
I guess they expected you not to speak good English.
Yes.
I don't know. So what's your favorite comfort food?
Biryani. Have you ever had biryani?
I have not.
We have to have biryani.
It's a deal.
Absolutely.
I'll treat.
Please, come to Astoria.
So what's a day off look like for you?
I'm trying to find out. I'm eagerly awaiting it. I would say on those rare occasions, it starts off with me watching soccer. I'm an obsessed soccer fan of a team called Arsenal. And then
everybody knows the Arsenal team.
Everybody knows them. They've caused me much pain, but also some joy. And then has a lot to do with food. I love to eat food. I love to sit and
Biryanis.
eat biryanis.
Yes, biryanis are.
No, please, you're almost there. And just having coffee and kind of being relaxed with my friends, because so much of this job is just rushing, cut to cut to cut. So a day when you don't have a schedule, to me, is bliss.
And you hang out in Astoria, you hang out...
I hang out in Astoria, I hang out on Steinway Street, where I go to many of the competing, all equally excellent coffee shops that we have that I refuse to rate. But that is what my day looks like.
So what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
I think it's the words by Aisha Siddiqui, a writer who I really admire, who said, "Be the person you needed when you were younger." Because that always reminds me of why I entered this work, who I wished I had had as a child, and how I can potentially be that for someone
So
else.
why did you enter this work?
For me, you know, I used to be a foreclosure prevention housing counselor. I worked with Queens homeowners facing eviction, negotiating with banks on their behalf. And I could maybe win one case or two cases, but I knew that the issue was actually systemic. And so I entered into this work to try and change our housing policy and policy at large so that working class New Yorkers can stay in their homes.
And so now you get to try to change things in dealing with the, I hate to say it, bureaucracy in Albany, but it is bureaucracy.
It is, and I think one of my main charges that I have as an elected official is to bring the urgency that I feel and see in my district to Albany, where too often what we compare things to is what we've done previously in Albany, but not rather what New Yorkers are actually going through in this moment.
So you want to see creativity and moving things forward, different policies?
Absolutely, because I think that we have immense power in Albany to make sure that our trains run on time, that our buses are more frequent, that our students are going to well-funded schools, and that is our responsibility to deliver those things, because too often New Yorkers don't know that that's actually in our hands.
So do you have one bill, one unfulfilled bill that you haven't been able to pass that you'd love to have passed, and you can make your case right here?
Well, I would say that the bill that is on my mind right now is one that would repeal tax exemptions for Columbia and NYU. They currently receive tax exemptions of more
I knew that.
$320 million a year, and redirect that money to CUNY, to working class students across New York City.
So would you use that money to reduce tuition, to increase faculty, to build new buildings, new labs? How would you use $320 million?
I think all of the above. You know, what we're seeing right now is students are being priced out of going to CUNY. It used to be free in the 70s, and now more and more it is something that they have to afford. And then we're seeing faculty, many of whom are stuck being adjuncts, many of whom are regularly fired by CUNY because of budget cuts. And then we're seeing facilities, you know, only 8% of CUNY buildings are in a state of good repair. And all of this, it's astonishing, and all of this while Columbia and NYU are two of the largest landowners in New York City, and yet don't pay property taxes.
So this is the last question, but I'd like to ask people, if you were going to play tour guide in your district, what places in your district would you take people that are, like, to you, a must-see or a must-experience?
So how many should I suggest?
As many as you like.
Okay, here we go. Well, the first thing is we have to go to Astoria Park. It is a gorgeous, beautiful park. We have an amazing swimming pool that will finally be reopening this summer, that used to be where they had Olympic trials. And we have a view of incredible bridges. And then I would take people to Ditmars, which is a little bit out of my district, but in my neighborhood, for incredible Greek food. I'd take them to Steinway, Little Egypt, for some great Egyptian food, some Yemeni coffee. And then I would probably end on 36th Avenue, which has amazing Bangladeshi food. I'd take you there for biryani. And then we would have some Mexican tacos straight from Mexico City at Sabrosura, a great new restaurant.
It's just a slice of New York.
Yes, it is.
You have an amazing district because you do have so many different ethnic groups there. And I will tell you, because I've spent time in Astoria, the food is amazing.
It is. I think it's the best food in New York City.
It's really great. But on that note, we have to leave. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you at home for joining us as well.